Welcome to the introduction to No Limit 5-card draw in 10 minutes or less, brought to you by Rec Poker. So what is 5-card draw? Well, it's a classic form of poker. It's often shown in television in the 20th century. You'd see it on The Odd Couple or MASH. Usually they were playing 5-card draw in these particular games. For this presentation, I'm going to concentrate on No Limit 5-card draw as it is played on PokerStars. It can be played lots of different ways, but we'll focus on what's played on PokerStars. It's played with blinds, so there's 2 blinds, a small blind and a big blind. It's no limit, meaning you can bet anywhere from the size of the big blind to your entire stack. It's 5-card draw. There are no community cards. All the cards are held in your hand, and each player knows what cards they have and don't know any of the other player's cards. It's single draw, meaning there's exactly 1 drawing round. And it's typically played 6 to 8-handed. On PokerStars, it's played 7-handed. And the best hand wins, with the usual hand rankings you're used to from Hold'em. So high card, pair, 2-pair, etc. So let's go through an example hand with our betting round. So in this case, in this example, we have Jim as the small blind of 100 chips, Rob is the big blind with 200 chips, and then Steve will be under the gun, first to act. Steve has a pair of aces, which is not too bad. The 4-3 deuce he'll discard and draw to that. So Steve's going to raise to 600 chips. Phil decides to fold. Kristen also decides to fold. John decides to call. Jim folds, sacrificing his 100 chip small blind. And Rob calls, adding another 400 chips to his big blind to make the 600 chip call. And the dealer collects all of the chips into the center, and we move on to the drawing round. Drawing begins to the left of the dealer. If Jim had cards, Jim would be the first to draw. Since Jim folded before the drawing round, Rob will be the first to draw. So Rob is discarding 3 cards, and then the dealer replaces those 3 cards. Steve likewise is going to discard his lowest 3 cards and draw, and he gets an ace to trip up. That's very good. And John is just discarding 1 and drawing 1. So you can tell that's likely means that John either has 2-pair already or is drawing to a straight or a flush draw. Now we move on to the final betting round, where we start with Rob. Rob decides to check. Steve bets 1,100 chips. John calls the 1,100, and Rob folds, mucking his cards. And we move on to the showdown. Steve tables his trip aces, and John mucks his cards because he can't win. Then Steve collects the pot. Here are a few additional tips for 5-card draw. It usually takes 2-pair or better to win. Even a pair of aces is not that strong after the draw. Pay attention to the number of cards that are drawn. That's really the only clue you have as to the content of your opponent's hands. Obviously, they drew 5, that means they had no hand whatsoever. If they drew 4, that usually means they just had a single ace that they decided to keep. Maybe they kept a queen. Obviously, these things are player dependent. 3 usually means that they have a pair and they're trying to make trips. 2 usually means that they have 3 of a kind. And 1 means they either have 2-pair or are drawing to a straight or a flush. And if they draw 0, that means they already have a made hand of a straight or better. So you have to be very careful in that case. We hope that you can join us playing these games. Join our Rec Poker home game. We play No Limit Hold'em on the first Wednesday of every month at 8 p.m. Central Time, and our mixed games are played the second Wednesday of each month at 8 p.m. Central Time. Check out rec.poker/homegame for more information about how to join our home games.